Following submission of the IIT Guwahati report, Chief Minister Conrad Sangma today informed that the report states that the weight of the dome and lack of coordination between different agencies involved in the construction of the new building of the Assembly led to the dome collapse incident. The high-powered committee met today to discuss the report. IIT Guwahati was tasked with finding. Chief Minister Conrad Sangma said that IIT Guwahati was tasked with finding the reason for the collapse of the dome and checking the overall safety of the building. As per IIT Guwahati's findings, the rest of the building is safe and structural strengths and foundational strengths were as per standard, the Chief Minister informed. The Chief Minister also said that the high-powered committee will be calling stakeholders and explanation will be sought in 10 days' time. He also said that IIT Guwahati suggested that if the HPC wants to go ahead with the dome structure, it should be replaced with lightweight tubular steel structure covered with CGI sheets.
We have received the report from the IIT Guwahati today. We had received the report from IIT Guwahati several days, maybe weeks back. And this now today was placed in the high-powered committee. And in the high-powered committee, after going through the entire report, certain decisions were arrived at. And I would like just to mention a few points on the report summary of this 500-page report. The entire 500 pages are not here, but the main parts are here. So in this report, there were two aspects that we had stressed on, which we wanted IIT Guwahati to give us their technical findings on. The first was the reason for the collapse of the dome, and second was the overall safety of the building and the strength in the structure of the building. In the first case, the findings of the IIT Guwahati on the reasons of the collapse of the building was number one, because of the action of dead load alone, which means the overall weight of the entire dome was too heavy for it to sustain. And in that aspect, they've mentioned different aspects about the fact that they required a large number of coordination. And they've mentioned that there was a lack of coordination between the different agencies, which is the design, PMC, and construction. While these designs were being implemented, these coordinations, if they'd taken place, then most probably the situation would not have occurred. Second, they have mentioned about the safety of the building. And in this, the final finding of the report, in this case, was that the rest of the building was found to be safe. And all the structural strengths and the foundation strengths that are there were found to be as per standards. So these are the findings of the HPC, of the IIT Guwahati. And accordingly, this was placed in the HPC. And the HPC has now further instructed or directed the government that they must immediately call the different stakeholders, which are the designers and the contractors and the PMC, and ask for explanation based on these reports that are there. And whatever explanation they give based on that, come with suggestions on what further the process should follow. And they should be placed in the next HPC, which the Honorable Chairperson of the HPC, the Honorable Speaker, has suggested that we will try to do it within the next 1 week or 10 days. The next HPC should sit. So we intend to call, the government will be calling all the respective stakeholders. And based on that, this report, explanation will be sought from each of the stakeholders on the point-to-point basis on what are the replies that they have to the points that have been mentioned by IIT Guwahati. But the summary of the whole thing is that the rest of the building is as per standards and has the required strength and is safe. The dome structure collapsed because of the weight of the dome itself, and then there was a lack of coordination between the agencies, which if it had been done properly, then it would have, this entire situation could have been avoided. The IIT has specifically mentioned in the report that if the government decides to go ahead with the, if the HPC decides to go ahead with the dome structure, then it should be a lighter weight structure. That replace the dome structure with a light steel tubular truss structure covered with CGI sheet. So they have suggested that, which basically means that the structure can still be a dome, but it should be much lighter compared to the 450,000 kgs of dome that was there initial to the structure, which was concrete and steel and other structures were there. All that they're saying that should be removed and a much lighter dome structure should be put in. And that of course will be decided by the HPC. But once the procedure and process of calling the stakeholders is done and seeking explanation from their side, then we will decide the further course of action. So as I was mentioning, what the report has specifically mentioned is that the weight of the dome was too much for it to handle. Number two, as I said, they have mentioned that the coordination between the designers and the contractors and the PMC was not done in a proper manner. Because these coordinations were not done, steps that should be taken to ensure that regular monitoring is done, and if there are any changes in the design or the structure that needs to be made, those kind of decisions were not done in the proper manner, and hence, because of this lack of coordination and this monitoring, this structure, the high chance of the structure was falling was there. But they have mentioned this, but of course we will explore all the options. The idea is very simple. I mean, I just read out what they wrote, but of course I don't think CGI sheet would look that nice. I think we should do something that is more on like mosaic glass or something that has a better design, something slightly stronger, but at the same time looks better. So we will examine all those options. I am not an architect nor an engineer to be able to suggest that, but the idea is that the weight of that structure should be much lesser and much lighter compared to what it was before. Is that I mentioned this when the dome had collapsed earlier also, said this is maybe one of the highest dome structures in the country. And you know, of course there are bigger ones also, but at least in the region and in the country, maybe in the top, I guess height dome structure. So it was technically a very difficult dome to make, an ambitious, I should say, project that we were working towards. And hence this coordination that was required between the different agencies was much more critical in a project like this, which was lacking and which did not happen. Now, the future and the thing is that once we go into the explanation and call the different stakeholders, and once we see the explanation given by them, we will place that in front of the HPC. Once the HPC goes through that and feels that the explanation given is satisfactory or not satisfactory, then based on that, the specific action will be taken. So, but we have to give the chance to these stakeholders to also give their part of explanation as to the findings of this report. As I said, it's not possible for me to give the answer to that. So we have to see the explanation first. Once we see the explanation, once we see what they have to say, then only we'll be able to decide. But I would like to just mention that in this entire report, the conclusion about the rest of the building has been very positive. They have mentioned out here that the quality of the building, there's no compromise on it. It is absolutely up to the standards. There is no safety issue even after the collapse of a 4.5 lakh kg dome structure. There is no damage as such to the system, to the rest of the building. And hence the indications of the IIT report in the preliminary, this final report that we got, but my preliminary findings in this, is that the rest of the structure is perfectly fine, which if they had mentioned that there is a problem in right wing also, in the left wing also, in the central hall also, and then there's a serious concern. But the fact that in spite of this huge incident taking place where this entire dome fell off, the structure has remained strong, the conditions and the standards have been met, and the building is absolutely safe. So looks like it is the rest of the building is fine, but something happened in that dome part, and therefore we need to get to the bottom of this by talking to all the people concerned based on the findings of the IIT Guwahati report, and then we will take